All right, here we are with the special edition of the Warrior Poet Podcast, straight out of the jungle, here with my longtime good friend, Bodie Miller. We're about 30 minutes from embarking on a journey with Maestro Orlando Chuhandama to experience my fifth time drinking, second major trip, however. But for Bodie, this is your first experience going down to the jungle, although you're a bit of a journeyman yourself.
I am. I've sort of been on the search for quite some time for the right mindset, or even people or substances that allow me to sort of figure stuff out and sort through my objectives, my goals, my desires, all my stuff. So, I really have been on that quest for quite a while, and I'm pretty excited to, especially after seeing the transformation that you sort of have made coming out of the time where you came down here, and I'm really excited to give it a try and see see what I can get through.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in a similar position that you were this time last year. I'd had my own vision quest, a few of them a little more guided than yourself, which is just, somewhere out in the desert in the middle of nowhere. I had a little bit more tutelage as I was going, but very similar, very kind of free-flowing and not with any particular masters, I would say, more just, guides and friendly teachers and things like that. And then, of course, experiencing on my own. But this is a different program. This is that unbroken lineage with a medicine and a jungle and a plant that these people know really well.
You can really see the guys kind of, they have a certain amount of openness to what everyone brings to the table, but they also come equipped with knowledge and experience. And like you said, it's not just theirs. It's come from thousands of years of practice and training. So they know, that's one of the things that blows me away about things that, that come from human experience that are that old, whether it's some of the zodiac signs or some of the stuff that comes out of the Far East or stuff like this down here. It's just it's such a different thing when most people we know and see and interact with are dealing with just their life experiences. If they were lucky enough, they had a father or grandfather or grandmother or mother who passed some stuff down or shared stuff. But really, in our culture right now, that's a lost art of really passing down information so that each person isn't just left on their own to fend for themselves and acquire what information they can. And with these guys, you really get a sense of that responsibility and the knowledge and the privilege that they see it as. They see it as a privilege of sharing all that heritage and the information with people who can benefit from it. And it's pretty interesting, pretty intense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're lucky in our day and age if our grandparents pass a little bit of honor, pass a few lessons about morality maybe. But as far as knowledge, we're in such a culture where knowledge is so information-based at this point. There's very few traditions that you learn from your elders.
You to go to school and get your knowledge, and that's just so far from so far from my belief system of how knowledge should and can be acquired. At least as far as efficiently and enjoyably. I mean, it's so nice and fun to hear, anecdotal stories, but especially really specific, information that sometimes comes from 500 or 600 years before. It just never happens that way, where there's a direct line, where it's not just hearsay. It's not somebody else read it out of a book. It's as if it was personal experiences. And this kind of situation is one of the ways that you can transmit that kind of personal experience really well. And it's been a desire of mine, my whole life, to be able to communicate more clearly and more articulately and to pass on the things that I want to express with some efficiency and I think this is one of the tools that could potentially really make a huge impact on that.
Yeah, well, I've seen it firsthand. The impact that this one experience made on me. Obviously, for those of you who've been listening to me and following me, obviously the Iboga experience was another great one. But this was the main one that really set me on a different path, both personally, spiritually, in business, in all aspects of my life. It was something completely out of the ordinary of what you can expect. I think some of the other things that you do, like, mushrooms are great. They can be kind of a reset and kind of a little balance, but just the depth that this medicine in particular brings is something pretty unique. And then, even though I'm something of a veteran going into this, not so much compared to when you talk about some of the people who live down here and really work with the medicine, but having done it a while still, it's butterflies in the stomach, 30 minutes to onset. It's getting ready for an experience where you don't know exactly where it's going to take you and you don't know what to expect. But I feel myself nonetheless, craving it. My body wants to cleanse, my mind needs to cleanse, and I'm just looking forward to, taking that journey over the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had, any experience with it in the past, but, obviously talking to Aubrey about it and from my research and stuff, I feel like I don't get the butterflies because I don't know the true depth of it, but on my own explorations I've done in the past, I really, I don't have the same kind of anxiety that some people get, but I do find a special bit of enthusiasm. It's a real desire to explore. I feel like an explorer going to somewhere where you don't know. Sometimes just trying to meditate or think, I can find parts of my brain or depths of my thought that I haven't really addressed entirely. And these are the instances where you get those laid out in front of you, like a map. I mean, they're just clear as day, and you can explore them at will. You can go back and forth between two. You draw connections between thoughts and ideas you had 15 years ago to ones that you're going to have in 5 years, and it's just a really, that excites me because it's something that I think everybody struggles with, is trying to make everything clear and easy to access in your brain. And this is, I'm just super psyched to have a chance to, to have that, that stuff laid out in front of me where I can really do some exploring.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, another thing that you'll learn as you kind of go along this journey, if anybody else is going to embark on this same path, is even when you're about to do it, when you're preparing to do it, you'll start to feel some of the changes happening. Yeah. I mean, just the preparations that your mind and body that go through
readying yourself. I mean, even just if you don't know exactly what you're doing, just readying yourself. Once you've heard people speak about it and stuff, it becomes, it really is second nature to people. I mean, it's no surprise that every advanced culture has some form of this.
It's been a huge part of our evolution.
And it really is. It's in there already. But as soon as you start knowing you're going down that way, your body starts and your mind starts preparing you for it, and it's it's pretty exciting. It's really cool.
All right. Well, Bodhi, my brother, we're about at that time, so we will check back in with you and give a report after the first plunge to the other side. Absolutely. All right. All right, here we are, day 2, preparing for another night. We got only a few moments here because Bodhi's off to see Maestro Panduro somewhere out on the beach and hopefully take a full canteen, big gulp of ayahuasca this time, because last night was, for me, a very physical journey. For Bodhi, a very sleepy journey, as the ayahuasca did not create the fireworks that perhaps we were anticipating.
Yeah, I was prepared as best I thought. I didn't really know what to expect, so I went in with a pretty open mind and just kind of waited it out and see where things went. And after about an hour, no nausea. I'd heard some people starting to throw up and stuff, and I had no effects whatsoever. I had I was sort of into the chanting, and the chanting and the whistling was, I thought, amazing, really cool and fun, but not so much for anything beyond fun. We did that at my tennis camp too, which was fun. But so I went back up and got a second cup, which he hooked me right up with, and that one had equal effect. left me equally high and dry, but I did. It was fun to be there, and just the time of meditation, kind of and just relaxing was, I thought, great. But as far as getting the real effect of it. I'm holding out for tonight.
Yeah, for me, you know, I've been with the same shaman. This was the 4th time, and very different experience. I certainly had some strong physical effects, as could be attested to by the sounds coming out of the.
He's purging, cleansing. Both ends.
So for me, I feel fucking awesome today. But you know, those stories, like you've all heard before. You know, not too many of those from last night. But we'll see about tonight. I think we're both going in separate ways. I'm sticking with the dragon. Bodhi's going to be out with Panduro, which sounds like hard bread to me. And I think he's going to give him the business. So the hard bread. that's what you're in store for. So good luck, my brother. I'll probably check in with you guys here and on my own here in a second. But then we'll be back tomorrow to account the details of the adventure. That is not an ample amount of toilet paper you're bringing for what may happen at the beach.
To the river.
All right. Adios for now.
I'm just going to shake it dry.
All right, so here I am checking in again on my own, smoking a little tobacco pipe. Tobacco is a very symbiotic plant with ayahuasca. Now, granted, the tobacco that the shamans smoke in the jungle is quite a bit different than the tobacco we get in the West. It's actually a different species, kind of like marijuana has cannabis sativa and cannabis indica, which have, dramatically different effects for the people who can tell the difference. I don't happen to be one of those people, but same thing with the tobacco plant. I don't know the exact species names, but regardless, it's one of the things that even on the strictest diet, or dieta, which usually includes, no heavy meats, no fried, no dairy, no fermented, no cheese obviously being fermented, no alcohol, is all part of the ayahuasca diet. But tobacco, on the other hand, is something that the shamans will smoke during ceremony and is not frowned upon if you are smoking. Caveat being the tobacco they're talking about are hand-rolled jungle, tobacco plants that grow live right out of the jungle. So it's a much different thing than, getting a pack of Marlboro Reds and just giving it hell during your ceremony. But me, I'm smoking a little pipe tobacco, which is, hopefully some kind of compromise there in the middle. Not sure exactly, but give it a go. But anyways, yesterday was pretty interesting. I've worked with Orlando 3 times, and all 3 times have had pretty dramatic, kind of fireworks, a lot of visions, and, the purging came as well. But it was always accompanied by some very intense visuals, and that just didn't come yesterday. Drank a full cup. Admittedly, the cup tasted a little bit less thick and fiery as I recalled it. But that isn't to say that it shouldn't have had the effect. So there are really 2 options here. One option is I've been in pretty serious need of a cleanse. I just haven't felt healthy. I've been spending some time in Las Vegas. I've had some emotional, turbulence at the breakup of myself and my fiance, and some, family issues and some other things that have all kind of weighed on me this year, and haven't really had a lot of opportunity to unpack that. So that creates some kind of toxic environment in you, and as well as, of course, what comes with Vegas, which is, late nights and a lot of drinking and strip clubs and, the whole the whole charade that happens when you're out there. Really kind of dropping me at a point where I needed a physical cleanse, and that's exactly what I got. I mean, I was nauseous the whole time. It kind of relented around hour 2, picked right back up as soon as we packed up our stuff, and I just hit the cabin here, and let it rip. I mean, it was savage what I was doing to the toilet there. And then today I feel the best I've felt in weeks. Got a good swim in, eating really clean food here in the jungle. We went on a little 4K jungle run out to this lake, and that was really nice. So, I'm feeling great, but I'm hoping that some of the fireworks come, and man, I'd love to get back to that place I got to last time that they call the 8th dimension, that place where everything in my life is completely lucidly clear, and I can see, it's just real magic when you reach that level. But at this point, after last night, which, I can't help but feel a bit like it was something of a dud, I'm hoping to at least get back to a very visual place where I can, take back some lessons and some teachings from the visions themselves. But I'm gonna trust in the medicine and trust in the shaman, and hope that the ayahuasca, gives me tonight what I need. And certainly, if I am being impartial, what I needed last night more than the visions was a physical purge and a physical improvement, and I certainly got that. So hopefully, Bodhi's experience out on the beach, I think he was getting a lot more physical effects than he realized as well. But hopefully out on the beach he starts to get some of the magic that can come with ayahuasca. The other possibility that I have to be open to is just that for whatever reason, the crop of leaves or vine that was used in the preparation was just not as active as it was last year, and that can certainly happen. I mean, these are not farm-raised, farm-grown crops. These are wild harvested from the jungle, and the variance in them can be extreme. So, it's one of the risks with working with the natural plants. But, these guys really know what they're doing, and it was a pretty spectacular ceremony put on by Maestro Orlando the Dragon yesterday. So that was very enjoyable, and man, I do feel fucking great today. So, I have no personal regrets. I just hope that it, brings out some of the magic that I experienced last time. So I will check in with you guys tomorrow, and so will Bodhi, and hopefully we'll have some more to report here from the jungle on the Madre de Dios in Peru. Adios on day 2. All right, here we are at day 3, having had a more successful evening the previous evening. I certainly had a pretty powerful experience. Bodhi hopped off and went to the beach with Mr. Hardbread himself. So Bodhi, why don't you start with how your experience kind of went out there under the stars, taking some ayahuasca with Panduro? Yeah,
Panduro was just a totally different vibe. He's one of the shaman who taught himself. He went out into the jungle and did his own initiation process. It took him a few years actually out in the jungle by himself, just doing ayahuasca and trying to get in touch with this whatever it is, the spirits or however it is that they do it. He kind of described it to us yesterday, but it sounded, you know, a little bit convoluted, at least in my mind. But he definitely runs a different program than Orlando does. And the music, I would say, was a big distraction for me. His singing and his whistling was just much harder for me to process. But the actual experience overall was pretty much the reason I came down here, at least to a large degree. I definitely had to do more of the work. I think that was one of the kind of breakthroughs. I hadn't ever experienced ayahuasca before, obviously, and to recognize, you know, in the past, anytime I did something, it was me just sort of directing the thought and channeling things where I wanted them to go. And in this case, it definitely requires more legwork on your part. You really have to, as if you're just sitting alone in your room at home, thinking through, you know, a couple problems or what direction you want your life to go in and that kind of thing. And then once you commit the energy and the time and start really revealing yourself to yourself, it seems like the ayahuasca kind of steps in there and gives you some direction and can help point things in one way or another that maybe you wouldn't be able to think of really on your own. So that was kind of a big breakthrough, because I haven't really had any situation like that where I was so determined to figure stuff out and you know, had to do the legwork on my own without really knowing which direction it was going to go. So it was cool. It was just super distracting with all the people down there. It was really, I spent most of the time laughing hysterically at the different people, you know, just crapping their brains out all over on the beach and puking and stuff. I mean, that was definitely pretty good comedy. But overall, I would say it was a real big success, and we're going to go for it again tonight with Orlando and hopefully bring that lesson in there and let him sort of hopefully shape the direction of things a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, the first experience I had was pretty intensely strong with the visuals. You know, that was last year, and you know, you tend to forget that, you know, any kind of DMT experience like this, ayahuasca, sometimes it's pretty ephemeral. You know, it'll come and go to you, and it'll slip in and out, and I think the idea of doing the work yourself is an important idea. It reminds me of what actually the Iboga shaman told me right before I went under. I didn't feel like I was feeling the effects at first. They just hadn't, at that point, they hadn't actually happened to kick in, and he kept asking me to visualize things and see things. And finally I got there, but just totally just kind of imagining it with my mind and like making it happen. And he said, you know, that's the lesson I wanted to teach you, that you don't need Iboga to get the truth of your answers, you know. But, you know, obviously, certainly when you have it, it's a great ally there as well. But I think part of the teaching was just the process. So whether it's Iboga or ayahuasca, it's the same thing. You know, you can push your mind to find the depth and, you know, see the other perspectives, see around the walls that look impermeable, but then from a slight angle you realize that they're, you know, a different obstacle that you can certainly pass. So I think that's definitely one of the lessons of ayahuasca and anything really.
It was definitely a little bit of a revisiting for me of some of the concepts. I'm a real talker. I like talking to my friends about issues, and I talk, you know, I do a lot of introspection, just sort of talking to myself, whether it's in my head or out loud or writing, just trying to figure out, you know, trying to work through problems, or, you know, it seems to really help me to verbalize things. But again, I'm always confronted by the challenge of a lot of the more complex issues or more important issues that I face or that people face in general just don't really fit into words very well. A lot of them are very emotion based, or the concepts are so broad that by the time you get halfway through trying to describe the thing, you know, the person who's listening or even yourself, you get so distracted by little ancillary things or by past experiences that link onto those. It's hard to keep a complete thought long enough to get the whole picture out without sort of having it dissolve in front of your face. And I think it sort of revisited how important, or why the visions, or why the assistance of some of these you know, some of these medicines are so helpful, is that you get whole concepts and whole ideas in vision, in pictures that, you know, they say a picture can paint 1,000 words, and this is more like 100,000 words. I mean, you're getting moving motion pictures of scenarios and circumstances that can lay out concepts that are critical for you to learn or for you to figure out in ways that are totally easy to absorb and extrapolate whatever information you need from, without any of the hazards of trying to put really complex emotional debacles into words. So it was fun for me to kind of revisit that, because I get a lot of that of like, why don't you just think of it, or why can't you just do it with talking, or why can't that is the real hurdle for us, is we are very verbal, and each person has their own experiences. So to try to communicate ideas, or to try to process an idea so it's fully developed and you really have a good handle on it to the point where it gives you confidence and you can live by it. Sometimes these visions, they really can make a huge impact, and once you have ownership of it, it lasts for the rest of your life, and you can use it to shape everything from that point on. But sometimes that picture really is 1,000 words.
Yeah, there's so many things. We're funny creatures. There's so many things that we know, that we really do know on a simply cognitive level. How we should live, what we should do, what our issues are. But until you actually kind of see it laid out for you and feel it in every cell, which is what these medicines can do. They can make you believe it 100% in every bone and every fiber of your body. You won't really be able to put those into practice, and you won't be able to really apply that.
It's just a matter of discipline rather than a matter of course. You can force yourself to, but it's never natural.
Well, some people can.
Right. Some people can, and everyone can to one degree or another with one little thing or another. But some of the more demanding and complex issues, people just slip way too easy. And if you can see it in front of you, it becomes a part of how you are, and it becomes it elevates your sort of mind to a different place, and then it becomes a completely natural process of how to live and how to do different things and how to act and how to treat people. And that's obviously a huge leap that you can make all in one step, which I think is
very valuable.
That's the value of it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there was some ideas that I learned that I'm certain will stick with me for the rest of my life, and they weren't necessarily things that I couldn't have cognitively or philosophically thought about, but I was somehow kind of blind to them, and how I was taught them last night was a kind of a visitation by 3 different animal beings, I guess you could say, and the first one was a huge blue and green dragon that was made of light and energy, and it was kind of ghost-like, and it came right in front of me, and in a booming voice it says, it started challenging me and challenging some fundamental beliefs that I would just say out of rote, just be like, oh yeah, this is what I believe. But it started challenging those kind of concepts and principles about myself, and in doing so, showed me some really, valuable insight that I'll certainly be able to take, and an insight too that's, it was kind of double-edged. I got it, and I realized oh shit, this changes how I view my actions, the things that I've been doing. And it's not in a way where you want to, punish yourself, but, you have to come to terms with the fact that you haven't quite lived up to what the best person you could be is. And that's not easy.
You think your established standards were. It's a very humbling experience, and that's why I think the sort of the crux of this experience down here is for most people is, to show them who they really are, to take a hard look in the mirror, and your subconscious, again, you said that it was the dragon that told you that, and that's probably one of your most powerful sort of internal mechanisms. It represents how strong and how powerful you view yourself, and all the proud parts and all the really knowledgeable, and those are, and for that part of you to be chosen to speak those things, it's your subconscious really, obviously it's producing all that, and it's asking you the very difficult questions that, without maybe coming from that side of your perspective, or your personality, maybe you wouldn't have answered the questions as honestly. Maybe you would have said, yeah, of course I like to do everything, I like to be a good person, and blah blah, and you wouldn't have dug a little bit deeper. But coming from that side of your subconscious in dragon form, you felt like it deserved, it demanded really more than deserved. It demanded the honest answer, and that's when you have to, you have to look at yourself a little bit extra hard. And that's,
when you're staring at the face of a snarling dragon that's 8 times the size of you, and it's looking at you with a mean look, it's a little harder.
You give it the straight answer.
Yeah, you give it the full honest answer. You completely expose expose absolutely what you feel, and I think that was important. Now, of course, the shamans, there's a lot of people who will argue that the dragon itself is a real being. But, I think to hedge our bets, I think the Bodhi's idea of it being part of the subconscious is probably the most likely. But, some crazy stuff happens. It certainly didn't feel like me. It didn't seem like me. It seemed like he had his own agenda, like he was his own person. But I could see very easily how, and probably most likely how that was a manifestation of some aspect of myself.
And again, they talk a little bit about the collective consciousness down here and the link between everybody else. And when you have shamans around directing the ceremony and stuff, they really can, they're putting out a bunch of energy, whether that's through the previous talks they've had about the different spirit animals that they envision for different aspects of life or different aspects of their personality. They do plant the seeds, and how subconscious people are. And there's just, if people are looking for information or they're looking for a feeling, obviously the things that are planted in there, their subconscious things, are the ones that tend to leap out. That's just, that's just the way it is. But also combine that with a collective consciousness of people who are all in a very visually hallucinogenic state, and you have people's nightmares, you have people's worst fears, which in the case of Aubrey and myself, I don't really feel any fear when I'm in those states. No matter how vicious the thing in my face is, sometimes it can stimulate a different response, maybe like it did with him, where it was maybe a little bit more honest answer than if it was coming from a little butterfly that landed on your arm. But at the same time, there's no fear for me. And I think part of the manifestation of some of these visions certainly can come from the people that are around you, because we are in big groups, and a lot of the people you can really hear are suffering and are going through very traumatic, kind of nightmarish things, and they come out in the end and feel very enlightened and relieved, and they feel like they can regain some purpose through that. But I think it is a bit of a different experience for Aubrey and myself.
Yeah, I mean, this is now especially. I mean, the very first experience here in Peru, it didn't really draw up a sense of fear, but it was certainly nightmarish. I mean, I had bugs crawling in my skin and exploding. I had snakes eating me organ by organ from the inside out. I was sliding down vines of spikes naked. It was like the worst shit I could think of, but it was really trying to teach me to, accept my death and the lack of importance of the physical body that we have. I mean, it was basically just destroying that and saying, hey, see, this really isn't that important after all. All of this body that you're so concerned about. It's nice to have, but let's destroy that, kill it, get rid of it, and get you to move past it. So but again, the attitude, if you try and resist that and fight it, that's when it becomes a bad experience. You're trying to hold on and make it not so. You want the ayahuasca to stop. You want the visions to stop.
Or if you just
that's when it makes it hurt.
Even if you just let your fears really take control. In that sense, you kind of gotta. There's a part of you that has to sort of be above it, because again, I think it has to do with letting go of your fears. I mean, letting go of your fear of death, which is the end result fear, because pain and things like that are obviously existent for everyone. Everybody fears pain to a certain degree, but. But the real fear at the end of the tunnel is death, and that's when you're confronted with dragons or with lions or bears or snakes or. The end result of all that would be death. And as soon as you get past that fear, all of a sudden it's kind of like let things happen, and you then all of a sudden your visions and stuff like that can become more instructive and more like you're kind of there as a bystander as opposed to like some victim of like all these horrible nightmares and horrible circumstances. And you really see people who just can't get that separation, even though they're so fearful all the time, and these terrible visions, they really do contain potential death for them, and that's that's scary. And I think that's one of the lessons that they try to teach down here is to overcoming that fear of death and allowing yourself to sort of learn from the visions without just being so freaked out that you're just trying to escape all the time, because that really is a no-win situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, I got enough done last night down on the beach that was able to execute a strategically perfect game of chess today. So I feel like that was definitely another breakthrough.
It did turn your chess game around. I think I might be losing 2 games in one day, which is not a good place to be at. But that's right. Somebody had to win game 3, right?
So we're off to do our third session. We sort of haphazardly found out that tonight's going to be the last night we'll be able to do a ceremony. So, this is going to be the kind of closer deal. I'm sort of excited just because I think I learned more about the process last night, so I'm going to know a little bit more how to go deeper tonight, whereas the first night I think I just kind of blew it just because I didn't know what the experience was and how much work I had to do. So, I'm excited about that. We're going back with Orlando, so I'm psyched to see the dragon tonight. I'm gonna try to steal the bottle and chug the whole thing.
Well, we'll get after it and report to you guys tomorrow. Later. All right, so it's day 4. Down here, close to the banks, actually on the banks of the Madre de Dios River. The moon in the sky, a Southern Cross right in front of my head. It's been a very interesting trip, and a lot different than the last trip I took down here. Different messages, different intensities. I can't help but wonder if the brew had changed a little bit. I think it might have been a little too much to handle for this group, so I think they might have dialed it back. I mean, there's a lot of people who were cracking in the ceremonies last time, and this time there was a lot more people who didn't feel very much at all, including my good friend Bodhi, who had a nice experience out here in the jungle, but none of the fireworks that ayahuasca has the potential to bring. But I'm very happy that I made the journey. I certainly got a lot out of it. My third session, I got quite tranquilo, as they say, drunk on the ayahuasca. I was feeling it really strong, but there wasn't any the visions that came the night before, the dragon and the bear and the eagle and talking to me and opening this dialogue. It was much different yesterday. Yesterday it was like I was just resting on the ground floor of some ancient jungle, like this jungle, but more primeval, more pristine, and just kind of became a part of the earth. And the whole hut that I was in melted away. Everything else melted away. I could still hear the songs of the shaman, but that was really the only thing that could kind of pierce the consciousness of where I was. And I was just sleeping on basically the belly of the earth. And it was a really cool, grounding experience, and I feel more alive and more like myself today than I have in a long time. To close the ceremony too, I've gotten to be pretty close with Maestro Orlando, and he usually purifies everybody with some cinnamon at the end that he blows on different parts of on your hands and on your head, and as to kind of close the ritual. But for me, he took one of the black tobacco cigarettes, which are used for cleansing. They hand roll them out here. It's a different type of tobacco. I think I mentioned that already. And went through a very kind of detailed process of kind of pushing the smoke into different parts, different parts of me and kind of working. I don't know exactly what he was doing, but the end result was I got back to the room, and I was fucking purging stuff from 9th grade. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. At some point, I was puking so hard and coughing, and like it felt like I was moving like a tennis ball worth of shit out of my, like heaving it from like, I don't know, somewhere deep in my spine. And it came out, and when it came to my mouth, it just exploded, and I was vomiting out of my nose and mouth, and at the same time trying, just firing away like a fire hose full of diarrhea into the toilet. I mean, it was quite a spectacle. So it was just incredibly powerful cleanse and purge. And then I woke up this morning, and I was walking, and I saw him in the hallway, and he had kind of a bit of a shit-eating grin on his face, a big smile, and he asked me how things went last night, and I said, a big cleanse, mucho limpia, or whatever broken Spanish that I could come up with, and he started laughing, and he says, just said tobacco, basically letting me know that that's what he was doing for me in this special program. So, there's really a lot of medicinal properties to this plant, and I think that's why they call it, medicine, and they call ayahuasca Dr. Ayahuasca, because physically I feel like I've gone on a 20-day detox program or something. It's just remarkable the effects that you can feel in a couple days of eating clean and taking the ayahuasca every night. And, some really powerful lessons, too, and some great experiences. Obviously, some part of me wanted to go back to the 8th dimension, that place that I was last time that was just pure magic. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get there again. It seemed like maybe it was a gift that came once. I'll certainly, throughout my years, I'll come back and give it a try, but I don't know. Judging by this experience, I wasn't even really that close to getting to that level. But as I said, I think the brew was not quite as strong either. So it's hard to say exactly. But it's been another powerful experience. I think this is one of the messages I got last night was that perhaps my time, the time for me to keep seeking these answers and keep exploring the psychedelic realms. I've done enough of that for now, and it's time to start, sharing my experiences, sharing them with others, getting more people involved, and, doing my best to make a positive impact on the world, which is really what I want to do more than anything. And that was kind of the message. It was, basically saying, get out there and kick some ass is kind of the idea. So that's the main thrust of the report here from the jungle. It's been a very good time, I think, and then from here, we're going to make some adjustments. I'm going to try and arrange some situations that make it easier to come down here and work with Maestro Orlando. I think working with him directly is going to result in the most powerful experiences. I think he might have been limited by the group that I was going with down here, so I'm going to be working on that. I'll make that readily available, how to get in touch with him, and then hopefully also maybe even set up some seminars and stuff to come down here and do it, because the medicine has real magic and real healing properties as well. But I think ultimately ayahuasca is a piece to the puzzle, and we're in a day and age and a time where technology and the world, basically the world's gotten smaller, and we have access to things like iboga from Africa and ayahuasca from South America, and the mushrooms from North America, and I think there's a place in peyote, of course, and all the other medicines. There's so many medicines around, and each has their intrinsic value. And, I think ayahuasca is definitely the most physically healing and the most grounding. I mean, there's nothing I've done that makes you feel more like yourself, when you're finished than ayahuasca, like your real, true self, stripping away all the bullshit, all the ego, all the fear, and just brings out you at the very fundamental level, and nothing else can do that. If you're looking for straight up answers, you're looking to solve problems and get every answer you have answered, iboga, like hands fucking down. There are some answers here that I was looking for that just didn't come. No guidance on it. The ayahuasca has kind of a bit of a mind of its own. It's not the easiest thing to control and force to yield the answers that you're looking for. It usually does, but it won't get everything. But iboga, on the other hand, you have a list of questions, you're getting a list of answers, and it's a different ball game. And as I said, everything has its value. So, hopefully, all you guys can reach out to me, and if you have any questions about anything, I'm certainly, know that part of my calling is to be a bit of a guide, someone who's gone out there and done as much as I can, and shared it as honestly as I could, and hopefully there'll be some benefit, because I think in the time and the age that we live, which is so ungrounded and so challenging, going back to the old medicines that connect you with the earth, connect you with spirit, and give you answers to your increasingly complicated lives, are more valuable than ever. And, who knows what this whole 2012 thing is about, but I do know that when enough people believe something, then it becomes real. And, enough people believe that 2012 is a time of change and is a shift. And because enough people believe it, it will be. And, I think we need to pay heed to that, and do our best to be leaders when times are confusing and things are challenging. So that's it. Checking out Warrior Poet, Aubrey Marcus from the jungle. And I will be back online and in the saddle on July 2nd or so, and that's hopefully not too long after that is when this will be released. So all the best, much love, later. All right, here we are with the postscript to the ayahuasca journey down in Peru. It was funny. I was having a lunch yesterday with Mitch Schultz of DMT, the Spirit Molecule, and as soon as I told him I just got back from Peru, he kind of got a smile on his face, and he said, "So, how's reintegration going?" And I smiled as well, and it's because it's always a challenge. And for those of us who've been over to the other side a few times, we realize that this is one of the most challenging aspects of doing any kind of journey, is bringing that kind of higher frequency, that higher consciousness, the higher state of being that you attain when you're out on one of these journeys, and integrating that with your normal day-to-day life. The emails pile up, the phone calls, the demands, the traffic, everything, just the general pace and aggravation of our normal lives is not very conducive to maintaining all of the gains that you made on your spiritual journey. So, of course, myself, no exception to this. It's been, been a challenge, as it always is. I'm completely out of communication for 5 days, and you come back and you got a little mini mountain that you got to work through. And, there's some ways that you can help yourself kind of keep that great grounded feeling and the kind of positive energy that you've had. I mean, certainly that's where meditation comes in. A lot of the shamans recommend spending some time by a fire. There's certainly a kind of mesmerizing and meditative aspect to being around a fire in the first place. And then, also doing your best to keep a clean diet when you return as well. So you're not bombarding yourself physically with things that are going to kind of detract from the state that you've been in. So I've been, doing my best to try those things as well. But really, it was a pretty remarkable trip out there to Peru, and definitely the things that I learned will certainly stay with me. The messages from the dragon, the messages from the bear, the messages from the eagle, which, I'll get to talk in more detail on the Joe Rogan Experience. I don't want to spoil the whole story before I head out there and talk to Joe. But, those messages will never leave me. The kind of physical cleanse I felt, I'm rapidly eroding that with 4th of July cheeseburgers and shit like that. But, still nonetheless, there's a certain level of kind of health and just a feeling of being cleansed that was pretty fantastic and will stay with me as well. But, it is a challenge to keep that kind of consciousness going and that real sense of being grounded that you attain when you're out there. There's another kind of thought I had, and that's regarding ayahuasca in general. Since this was the first journey I did after my iboga journey, it really helped kind of clarify the differences for me between the two, between ayahuasca and iboga. This ayahuasca trip in particular left me with a lot of questions that were unanswered, things that I was seeking that I never got to find a concrete answer for. I mean, I would get these visions, and these visions were like riddles. A lot of times, for example, one of these times I was having this vision of taking this long Viking rowing ship, and I was rowing with all of these Viking type people, and we were rowing on the ocean, and there was a moon ahead, and all of a sudden we peeled out of the ocean and started heading straight towards the moon, and we're going faster and further towards the moon, and I was getting bathed in this blue light, and it felt amazing. And then this purple orb comes floating down from the moon, and it's floating towards me as we're rowing through the air in some kind of airship. And the orb goes right in front of my face, and I open my mouth and I swallow it. And it seemed incredibly significant at the time. I was like, whoa, I swallowed the orb. Yes. Like it was some video game, some modern Pac-Man. But, what the hell does that mean? I don't really know. I think it maybe had something to do with taking in the feminine energy of the moon, but shit, who knows? And so you get a lot of things like that you're left just wondering, like, what the hell was that? And with iboga, you don't get that. Iboga just tells you straight up in your own words, what it wants to tell you. There's no mystery there. There's no confusion. It's just, this is what's up. This is the truth, and here you go. But at the same time, iboga leaves you feeling like, you've just done a 3-day bender in Vegas. You feel like shit. You're kind of wired up. Your serotonin levels are whack because you haven't slept in days. Your mind has gone through an incredible incredibly positive transformation, and that kind of permeates your body, but you don't feel good at all. Whereas with ayahuasca, you come back from that feeling like $1,000,000, you know? I mean, you feel like I felt, you know, just cleansed and healthy, and really some of the best I've ever felt. So, you know, there's certainly pros and cons to both medicines. You know, I would say that if you have a lot of content and a lot of questions that you need answered, and you need concrete answers, and you're prone to confusing thoughts, you know, Iboga is the way to go, for sure. If you feel, you know, off center and want to expand your consciousness and feel grounded and reconnect with spirit and reconnect with the earth, ayahuasca is the one for you. So both are incredibly valuable tools and incredibly valuable medicines, and you know, I feel very grateful and blessed that I've had the opportunity to experience both, and a second opportunity to go down to Peru and make that happen. You know, in the meantime, I'll be you know, looking, one of my next projects I'm going to be looking at is some of the legal entheogens that are available. I'm going to be kind of exploring those, and I'll give you guys a heads up if I find anything that you know, that really makes sense and can help people get there without breaking the law. Of course, that's the optimal way to do it. And you know, it's sometimes challenging to get these substances here in the States, and it's certainly very cost prohibitive to have to travel down to South America or Central America to do them as well. So hopefully we'll find some, you know, intermediary solutions for you guys as well. So that's going to be one of my big projects coming up. But so yeah, I got I have Mitch Schultz coming on next. He should be a podcast on next Wednesday. And that is Wednesday the 11th, I believe. And then from there, I go on the Joe Rogan Experience on the 16th, and I will tell the full tale of the ayahuasca journey, including all the visions and my discussions with the bear, the dragon, and the eagle. So thanks for listening, everybody. Much love, and I will be in touch with you soon. Hit me up if you have any questions or any comments or anything. I love hearing from you guys. Adios. The world.